Erna shrieked, dangling the silver keys to a brand new Lexus over the turkey I had just spent 14 hours roasting. The dining room smelled like burnt sage and melted butter. My knuckles were cramped from kneading dough since dawn. My back throbbed from hauling cast iron pans out of the industrial ovens at my catering kitchen before rushing over here to cook for them. I looked down at the long mahogany table. 8 pristine china plates were set for the guests. 0 plates were set for me. What about me? The words slipped out of my mouth before I could bite them back. My mother pivoted, the back of her hand cracked across my left cheek. The smack snapped through the room, vibrating against the crystal wine glasses. A sharp, high-pitched ringing pierced my ear. The hot metallic taste of blood pooled in the corner of my mouth. Erna paused for exactly 2 seconds. Then she went right back to taking selfies with her new car keys, admiring her reflection in the dark window pane. My father cleared his throat. He stared intently at his plate, refusing to look up. "Stop making a scene and ruining the holiday," he muttered, scooping up a bite of stuffing. I clenched my jaw so hard my teeth ached. The silence in the room was absolute, heavy and suffocating. None of the aunts or uncles stopped eating. Nobody asked if I was okay. I grabbed my heavy wool coat off the back of the chair and walked straight out the front door. The freezing November wind slammed into my burning face. I pulled my collar up and stepped into the dark. That was the last meal I ever cooked for them. 3 days later, my phone vibrated violently against the stainless steel prep counter of my commercial kitchen. "My name is Valerie. I am 28 years old, and I built my catering company from a single rusted hot plate into a massive regional operation. I scrubbed floors, burned my arms on industrial ovens, and worked 100-hour weeks to earn my life." The towing company on the other end of the line delivered the news. My flagship refrigerated truck was sitting in an impound lot crumpled against a highway barricade. Erna had snuck into my kitchen office and stolen the spare keys. She wanted to take her friends on a late-night joyride and absolutely refused to put miles on her brand-new Lexus. I stood in the freezing impound lot and stared at the wreckage. The heavy metal rear doors were torn off their hinges. Over $6,000 of premium inventory was destroyed. Slabs of prime tenderloin, imported truffles, and delicate artisanal pastries were crushed into the wet, muddy asphalt. The air smelled like leaking coolant and rotting food. My entire weekend catering schedule was obliterated. I drove straight to my parents' house. I kicked the front door open. The brass handle slammed into the drywall, leaving a heavy dent. Irina was sprawled across the pristine white leather sofa in the living room. She was casually swiping through social media on her phone. She barely glanced in my direction. There were no apologies, just a mild annoyance that I had interrupted her scrolling. Bernice marched out of the hallway. Her designer heels clicked sharply against the hardwood floor. She did not ask if anyone was hurt. She pointed a freshly manicured finger directly at my chest. "Why are you screaming like a wild banshee over some spoiled meat in a trashy van?" Bernice spat, her eyes narrowed with absolute disgust. "Your sister needed a ride. Her new car was getting detailed." Sisters share. But of course you have to be completely selfish and ruin her week. My voice dropped to a dead whisper. "She destroyed $6,000 of my property." Bernice scoffed and stepped closer. She looked me up and down, wrinkling her nose. "Look at you. You run a successful company, but you still reek of cheap grease and poverty. You have no class. Your sister was born to be treated like royalty. She has a delicate constitution. You are the older sister. Your only job in this family is to provide for her and make her life easier. It is just a stupid work van." Valerina whined from the couch, lazily twisting a strand of hair around her finger. "Stop being so dramatic and jealous. You can just buy another one." My fingernails dug into the palms of my hands until the skin nearly broke. My mother stared at me with pure, unadulterated contempt. I finally saw the truth clearly. I was never a daughter to her. I was an invisible bank account. I was a pack mule, bred entirely to carry the weight of Irina's luxury lifestyle. They broke me as a child. Today, standing in that immaculate living room, the last shred of my blind loyalty evaporated into thin air. Arguing with a parasite only wastes your breath. I turned on my heel and walked out the door. I climbed into my personal car and gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. Crying was a waste of time. I needed capital to save my weekend contracts. I drove straight downtown to my bank to pull out a commercial repair loan, fix my ruined fleet, and cut them off forever. I pushed through the heavy glass doors of the bank lobby, completely unaware that the real nightmare was just beginning. The leather chair in the bank manager's office squeaked under my weight. I handed Mr. Henderson my business financials, expecting a simple vehicle repair loan approval. 10 minutes later, he slid a thick manila folder across the mahogany desk. His face was completely pale. "Valerie, you are already maxed out," he said softly. I grabbed the papers. The bold black ink screamed off the page. $85,000. A home equity line of credit leveraged entirely against the deed to my commercial kitchen. My life's work, my blood, sweat, and burns. I flipped to the signature page. The loops on my name were completely wrong. The letter V was shaky and forced. The handwriting belonged to my father, Derek. The secondary authorized user was my mother, Bernice. The puzzle pieces slammed together in my mind. Irina's shiny new Lexus sitting in the driveway. Bernice's sudden elevation to the platinum tier at the Charlotte Country Club. The endless stream of designer shopping bags. They were not just taking advantage of my catering money. They were actively bankrupting my future to play dress-up for their wealthy neighbors. I drove straight back to their house. The tires squealed as I parked on the pristine driveway. I marched inside and slammed the $85,000 bank statement onto the granite kitchen island. Bernice was arranging fresh lilies in a crystal vase. Derek was sitting in the adjacent room watching a golf tournament. "You forged my signature," I said. My voice was deadly quiet. Bernice held her ground perfectly. She set her pruning shears down, picked up the bank statement, and tore it straight down the middle. She let the pieces flutter to the hardwood floor. She stepped into my personal space. Her expensive perfume burned my nostrils. "Call the police," she whispered, a wicked smile twisting her lips. "Do it right now. Before the squad car even arrives, I will call the state health inspector. I will report massive rat infestations, black mold, and severe food poisoning at your precious catering company. I have friends on the city council, Valerie. I will have your business licenses revoked and your kitchen padlocked by Friday. I gave you life. Your money is my money." My father kept his eyes glued to the television screen. He heard every single word. He just grabbed the remote and turned the volume up higher. The air in the room felt so thin, I could barely breathe. A foolish person would have screamed. A naive person would have called her bluff. But I deal with ruthless corporate clients every single day. I know exactly how to play the game. I forced my shoulders to collapse. I bit the inside of my cheek until the physical pain brought real tears to my eyes. I sank down onto one knee and began picking up the torn pieces of paper. "I am sorry," I choked out, making my voice tremble perfectly. "You are right. I owe you for everything. I just panicked about the debt. Please do not take my kitchen away." Bernice crossed her arms. Her chest puffed out with sheer, arrogant victory. She looked over her shoulder at Derek and smirked. "Let me fix this," I whispered, staring at the floor. "Your prestigious charity gala is next week. Let me cater it, for free. The highest tier menu open bar imported Wagyu beef. I will sponsor the entire night. You can stand on stage and show all your rich friends how devoted your daughter is." Bernice's eyes gleamed with pure, unfiltered greed. The thought of showing off to high society was her ultimate weakness. "See, that is how a proper daughter behaves," she sneered, stepping over me to grab her purse. "Make sure the champagne is chilled," I nodded. I stood up and walked out to my car. I wiped my face dry. They thought my tears were a white flag. They forgot I built an empire from dirt. I know exactly how to bait a trap. And I know exactly how to spring it. 200 of Charlotte's wealthiest elites packed the grand ballroom of the country club. Silk dresses rustled. Crystal champagne flutes clinked. Bernice floated from table to table, dripping in a diamond tennis bracelet bought entirely with my stolen credit. She laughed loudly, soaking in the admiration of the high society friends she worshipped. Irina sat at the VIP table, swirling her drink, looking bored and utterly entitled. I stood backstage in my crisp white chef's coat. There was no need for a dramatic Hollywood scene with a projector screen or a stolen microphone. That kind of chaos gives a narcissist room to argue, room to play the victim, room to manipulate the crowd. I prefer a surgical strike. 48 hours ago, I handed the original forged documents directly to a lead detective in the financial fraud division. I also invited that same detective, along with the bank's chief compliance officer, to attend the gala as my personal VIP guests. They were sitting quietly at a table near the back, eating the imported Wagyu beef I prepared, waiting for my signal. The master of ceremonies tapped the microphone. The sharp feedback silenced the room. He praised Bernice Cooper for her unmatched generosity and philanthropic spirit. Bernice stood up and blew air kisses to the crowd. The applause deafened my ears. She walked up to the podium. She adjusted her diamond bracelet and leaned into the microphone. "I just want to say how incredibly blessed I am," she cooed, her voice dripping with fake humility. "My beautiful family is my rock. My wealth is nothing compared to the love in my heart." I stepped out from the kitchen doors. I made eye contact with the lead detective at the back table. I gave him a single, slow nod. The detective stood up. 2 uniformed officers stepped out from the coat check room and joined him. They did not shout. They did not draw their weapons. They simply walked in perfect, silent unison down the center aisle of the ballroom, straight toward the stage. The whispers started at the back tables and rippled forward like a wave. Forks dropped onto china plates. The mayor's wife covered her mouth in sheer horror, her pearl necklace trembling against her collarbone. Bernice froze mid-sentence. The smug, arrogant mask melted off her face. The blood drained from her cheeks, leaving her skin a sickly ash gray. She looked at the officers, then looked at me standing by the kitchen doors. "Ma'am, please step down from the stage," the detective said. His voice carried through the silent room without a microphone. "You are under arrest for felony identity theft and bank fraud." Bernice grabbed the edges of the podium, hyperventilating. Her chest heaved as the social execution settled in. The club president, the man she had spent thousands of dollars trying to impress, stared at her with absolute unfiltered disgust. Every single bridge she had ever built burned to ash in less than 10 seconds. She tried to speak, but only a pathetic, high-pitched gasp escaped her throat. Derek panicked. The great peacemaker finally showed his true colors. He kicked his chair back, nearly knocking over a waiter. He abandoned his wife, abandoned his golden child, and sprinted blindly toward the side exit doors. He slammed his hands against the brass handles. The doors opened from the outside. A 4th officer stepped directly into his path, blocking the exit entirely. "Wait, it was her," Derek squealed, his voice cracking into a high, pathetic whine. He pointed a trembling finger straight at Bernice. "She made me sign it. I just wanted to keep the peace. Do not arrest me." The officers clamped cold steel handcuffs around Bernice's wrists, right in front of the horrified VIP tables. Erina sat frozen in her chair, mouth gaping like a fish, completely helpless without her parents to shield her. I turned my back on. My family pushed the swinging doors open and walked back into my kitchen. The heavy diesel engine of the tow truck rumbled through the quiet suburban street the very next morning. I parked 3 blocks away, sipping black coffee from a paper cup, and watched through my windshield. The thick steel hook latched onto the front axle of Irina's brand-new Lexus. Irina stood on the wet curb in her expensive silk pajamas. She clutched her quilted Chanel bag to her chest, sobbing uncontrollably. The mascara ran down her cheeks in thick, dark lines. She shrieked at the repo men stamping her feet on the concrete, but they completely ignored her. The truck gears ground heavily. The Lexus dragged out of the driveway, scraping the pavement, and disappeared around the corner. By Friday afternoon, a heavy iron padlock hung on the front door of the Cooper house. The bank seized the property to cover the fraudulent collateral. My mother was sitting in a county jail cell waiting for arraignment. Erina hauled her belongings to a cheap roadside motel in black plastic trash bags. My cell phone buzzed against my desk. Unknown number. A burner phone. I hit accept. Derek's ragged breathing filled the line. "Valerie, please," he wept. His voice was completely shattered, stripped of all its fake diplomatic calm. "Drop the charges. Your mother is losing her mind in there. We are homeless. We only used your name because we knew you were strong enough to survive the debt. Erina is fragile. We just wanted to help her. Please, you have to save us." My grip tightened around the cold metal of my phone. He was still trying to weaponize my own strength against me. He still thought my loyalty was a bottomless well. "You stood there eating a dinner roll while she slapped me across the face," I said. My voice was ice. "Starve." I ended the call. I permanently blocked the number. I slid the phone into my pocket and pushed open the swinging doors of my commercial kitchen. Heat blasted my face. Industrial ovens roared. My staff chopped, whisked, and moved in perfect, beautiful harmony. A massive, multi-year corporate catering contract sat on my desk, waiting for my signature. I picked up my pen. I was finally free. The gavel slammed down against the heavy mahogany block of the judge's bench, echoing through the hollow courtroom. The criminal justice system moves slowly, but when it finally arrives, it brings absolute concrete ruin. Bernice Cooper stood before the magistrate, stripped of her silk dresses and diamond tennis bracelets. She wore a shapeless, standard-issue orange jumpsuit. Her dyed hair showed thick gray roots. The judge looked down at her from the bench with utter disdain. He sentenced her to 6 years in state prison for felony identity theft and bank fraud, with eligibility for parole only after serving 4 full years. The court ordered mandatory restitution of $85,000 plus $12,000 in punitive damages. Derek accepted a coward's plea deal. He testified against his own wife to save his own skin. The state gave him 5 years of heavily monitored probation, 2,000 hours of community service, and completely drained his retirement accounts to pay back the defrauded creditors. The legal punishment was severe, but the social annihilation was absolute. The Charlotte Country Club did not just quietly revoke their membership, they published a public notice in their monthly newsletter citing severe moral turpitude. The affluent neighbors they spent my stolen money to impress turned their backs instantly. Their names became a toxic punchline at every charity, luncheon, and golf tournament in the city. Irina got a minimum wage job folding clothes at a discount retail outlet. She takes the public bus every morning wearing a polyester uniform instead of designer labels. 8 months passed. The winter thawed into a bright, humid Carolina spring. I walked out to my mailbox one Tuesday afternoon. Mixed in with the catering invoices was a thin, cheap envelope stamped by the state correctional facility. The handwriting belonged to my mother. I tore the flap open. The lined paper was covered in frantic, uneven cursive. The words were a masterclass in narcissistic manipulation. She wrote about the terrible prison food. She reminded me of the pain she went through in childbirth. She swore she only took the money because family is supposed to take care of family, and she begged me to put money into her commissary account. There was no apology. There was only the arrogant assumption that my boundaries were temporary. A younger version of me would have cried. A younger version of me would have written a furious letter back, desperate to explain my pain, desperate to make her understand. The woman standing in the driveway simply folded the paper in half. I walked back inside my kitchen, stepped on the pedal of my stainless steel trash can, and dropped the letter right on top of the onion peels. I closed the lid. I walked away. My heart kept a steady, calm rhythm. The silence in my mind was beautiful. My life looks completely different now. I bought a house on the edge of the city with a sprawling, overgrown backyard. I built a massive outdoor brick oven. Every Sunday evening I host a family dinner. The people sitting at my table share absolutely no DNA with me. My head chef Marcus brings his 2 little girls who run through the grass chasing fireflies. My sous chef Elena brings fresh sangria and loud, contagious laughter. We pile the wooden table high with roasted meats, grilled vegetables, and fresh sourdough bread. We eat until we are completely full. Nobody screams. Nobody demands expensive gifts. Nobody throws insults wrapped in fake concern. We just share the food, share the warmth, and protect each other. I built my own table, and I finally belong at the head of it. People will constantly tell you that family is everything. Society conditions us to believe that sharing a bloodline requires infinite forgiveness. The world tells you to honor your parents, to turn the other cheek, to keep the peace at all costs. But they never tell you that sometimes the word family is just a weapon toxic people use to keep you trapped inside a hostage situation. Take a very close look at the dynamics in a broken home. Watch how the pieces move on the board. Why do the parents relentlessly attack the strong child while aggressively babying the incompetent one? It is entirely strategic. My mother did not love Irina more than me. She loved Irina's utter uselessness. An incompetent child will never leave. An incompetent child is completely dependent, which means the narcissistic parent retains absolute control forever. Independence terrifies a narcissist. I built my own business. I made my own money. I did not need them to survive, and that made me a massive threat to their fragile ecosystem. They tried to destroy my future to fund their ego, assuming my deep-seated loyalty would keep me chained to the floor. They thought my love was a weakness they could exploit endlessly. My father was equally dangerous, if not worse. We often excuse the quiet parent in these situations. We call them the peacemaker. We praise them for trying to hold the family together. But Derek traded my physical and financial safety for his own comfort. He watched me bleed just so he would not have to deal with my mother's wrath. He signed his name on a fraudulent loan to avoid an argument at the dinner table. If you take anything away from my story, write these 3 rules down and carve them into your memory. They are written in the scars of my own survival. Rule number 1. Blood does not demand loyalty. Respect does. DNA is just a biological accident. It is a roll of the genetic dice. If someone uses their title as a parent, a sibling, or a relative as an excuse to disrespect you, lie to you, or steal from you, you owe them absolutely nothing. Love is an action, not an obligation. Rule number 2. The enabler who watches you suffer to keep their own peace is your enemy. The person standing silently in the corner while you get slapped is choosing their own comfort over your survival. Cowardice is a choice. Silence in the face of abuse is an endorsement of the abuser. Do not waste your tears on the people who handed over the nails while you were being crucified. Rule number 3. Your success is your best revenge, but boundaries are your only armor. You cannot heal in the exact same environment that broke you. You cannot outlove a parasite. You cannot negotiate with a fire that is actively burning your house down. You have to walk away, lock the heavy iron door behind you, and never look back. It will hurt at first. The guilt will claw at your throat. But on the other side of that guilt is a profound, unshakable peace. Have you ever been the invisible ATM for someone who claimed to love you? Have you ever worked yourself to the bone, sacrificing your own dreams only to watch them hand all the rewards to the golden child? Tell me your story in the comments below. Let out the anger you have been swallowing for years. Type it out and leave it here. If you are still sitting at a table where your plate is always empty, let this story be your sign to stand up. You do not have to accept the scraps they throw on the floor. Share this video with someone who desperately needs the strength to cut the cord today. My name is Valerie, and I am free.